Good afternoon, historians. Our learning target today is I can identify landforms in Wisconsin. Today we'll be taking a look at a few pages out of our textbook, and then we will be talking about the landforms. Right now, you need to turn to page 22. Historians, page 22 says, "What does Wisconsin look like today?" You see a map on the left that says our landforms today. You'll notice that at the top of Wisconsin, to the north of Wisconsin, is Lake Superior. You'll also notice that to the east is Green Bay, which is a part of Lake Michigan. Finally, you will notice that to the west of Wisconsin is land, not water. That land is the state of Minnesota, and then to the southwest is the state of Iowa, and then to the south is the state of Illinois. You will also see that between the two pages is a picture of Madison. The caption above the picture says, "This photo shows the isthmus between Lake Mendota and Lake Monona in Madison. Isthmuses are one of Wisconsin's many landforms. Look for Wisconsin's state capitol building in this photo." Go ahead and put your finger on it. When we go to the state capitol, we will actually be on an isthmus. On page 23, there are several vocabulary words that are defined. So, at the top it says, "How do maps and the language of maps help describe Wisconsin?" Like the rest of the Midwest region, Wisconsin has a variety of interesting features with many different landforms. The vocabulary below describes what you are seeing. As you learn words for the different landforms, you'll be thinking like a geographer and sounding like one too. So that just means that we're going to learn these words and we're going to learn to use them. All right, historians, let's turn the page and look at page. All right. At the top of page 24, it says, "Reshaped by a long ago and very cold past." You see that there is a map on the left side. The caption under the map says, "Over thousands of years during the Ice Age, the weather changed from colder to warmer and back again. During colder periods, the edge of the ice moved very slowly. It was like a cold, thick syrup that covered much of Wisconsin. During warmer periods, the glaciers melted back." How did the Ice Age shape Wisconsin? Now I want to point out that on the map, there are several lobes, and those lobes were the glaciers that covered Wisconsin. All right, let's read page 24, the text on page 24. "About 1,000,000 years ago, the weather was warmer than it is today. Then the climate grew colder. To the north of Wisconsin, more snow fell in the long winters than melted during the short summers. The snow piled deeper and deeper. The lower layers of the snow turned into ice that got thicker and thicker, more than a mile thick in some places." Imagine that, boys and girls, a mile thick of ice covering the land. "This thick ice is known as glaciers. The glaciers slowly flowed south. They scraped down the highest places on the landscape. Glaciers scraped away the rock beneath them and picked up large amounts of sand and rock. Glaciers carried this mix with them as they moved. The weather grew warmer. The ice melted. The edges of the glaciers melted back. This happened over and over again. Finally, the weather warmed permanently. Moraines show how far glaciers moved and stayed over time. The last glacier's melting ice dumped its load of rock, silt, and clay on the land. This mix of ice, sand, and rocks melted out and is called till. It filled the lowest spots in the landscape. The melting and dumping created the gently rolling landscape that forms much of the glaciated area of Wisconsin that we see today. You'll find those glacial features on the maps on the next page. All right, boys and girls, let's look at the maps on the next page. So, the caption on the top map says, "Did you know that glaciers created the Great Lakes?" And then the caption under the map on the right says, "Look at this map." And then back at the topographical map on page 22, can you find the driftless area on that map? Can you find the moraines? Let's pause and do that now. All right, historians. This page states, how do glacial features appear on maps? The maps on this page show how glaciers reshaped the land and waterways in and around Wisconsin. Glaciers also created the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes are so large that they are sometimes known as inland seas. The scraping away of rock beneath the glaciers made the basins of what are now Lake Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, and Ontario even deeper. These great basins funneled the flow of ice into the lowest part of the landscape. The southwestern part of Wisconsin and neighboring areas in Iowa, Illinois, and Minnesota were not covered by glaciers. This part of the region is known as the driftless area. The driftless area has no glacial deposits or drift. It has no glacial features and a few lakes or wetlands. Instead, the driftless area has steep and twisting valleys and ridges that are several million years old. Now we're going to turn the page and we're going to look at some glacial landforms today. And this is on page 26. What kinds of landforms that glaciers made can we still see today? And it says we can see a kettle, a scooped out area that is filled with a large block of ice. When the ice melted, it left a low area. If the area filled in with water, it became a kettle lake. To the right, it says esker. An esker is a long snake-shaped hill formed of rounded sand and gravel. Eskers were formed by melting streams that flowed through tunnels at the base of a glacier. At the bottom it says moraine, a ridge or long, narrow hill that was once the side or edge of a glacier. Moraines show how far glaciers reached and stayed over some time. Glaciers formed moraines by pushing and dumping piles of many kinds of dirt and rocks. On the next page, it shows a kame. This is a steep, rounded hill formed by streams melting glacial ice, pouring down a hole and depositing their load of dirt and rocks into a large pile. And on the right is a drumlin, a long hill that looks something like an overturned canoe or teardrop. Drumlins were formed in the same direction as the glaciers flowed. They often occurred in groups, known as drumlin fields. Give me a thumb up if you've ever heard any of these terms. Historians, today we're going to play a game with our math partner, who for right now will also be our social studies partner. You will get this sheet. Each partner will get this sheet. They are going to draw a picture in the first column of a landform. They will then give the sheet to their partner, who will write in the word based on what picture it is, and then write in the meaning of the word. For example, historians, if I wanted to do hills, I would draw a few hills right here, and then I would give the paper to my partner, and I would only do that after I had drawn the picture for all 5 words. And then my partner would look at that and say, I think that looks like a hill. So they would write that in. And then my partner would go back in the textbook and look on page 23 and write down the meaning of a hill. And that would be raised areas of land that are less than 2,000 feet above the surrounding land. They would need to write that entire definition in the meaning box. Friends, once you have finished this, you are going to turn it in. Let's make it a great day.